All right, everyone. We start off today talking about the Clarence-Thomas derangement syndrome currently making the rounds. We're not going to get much in the way of indictment updates for some time to come now. So they've decided to haul off and attack other people, I guess, for a while. People can only reiterate the same nothing burger with the Trump indictment so many times before it gets a little bit on the stale side, and he's too busy campaigning around the country now. Clarence-Thomas, it turns out, over the course of quite some period of time, was getting, you could term them gifts from one Harlancrow, a GOP mega donor. However, he did not actually disclose that he was receiving these gifts. The thing is, up until now, basically, if you, according to ethics rules, something that would not be a tangible transaction didn't have to be reported for ethics purposes. So, let's say I'm a donor in your party, and you've run for office, and now you're a governor or lieutenant governor or senator or something. And I say, hey, do you want to come fishing with me on my super yacht? Yeah, we've got the Elizabeth Warren's $100 per cup champagne, and we've got, also Hillary's box wine if you're into the cheap stuff. And you can come aboard, and we'll go swordfish hunting or something like that. We'll go spearfishing and scuba diving and shit, and it's all expenses paid. No, I'll fly you out here. We sail around on the yacht. We'll go to Majorca, and we'll go to Malta and stuff, and have a good time. That's not actually a taxable transaction. It's not a tangible thing. I haven't given you a yacht. I haven't given you a Learjet. I gave you a trip on a yacht. I gave you a flight on the Learjet. I supplied you with stuff there, but again, me offering you filet mignon, the IRS doesn't say, well, you received $200 of filet mignon, and so we're taxing you because somebody else gave you food. You couldn't do it. Unenforceable, number one. Completely nonsensical, number two. I don't think that there's a nation in the world that would delve that deeply into tax triple dipping. So Clarence-Thomas, because he was not required to, did not disclose any of these de facto gifts he was being given. Now, is it shady that an individual like Clarence-Thomas would take that many gifts from him, and then they technically are, over such a great period of time? It's questionable, but it's not illegal. It would be extreme hypocrisy to target him singularly when you know that this shit happens literally all of the goddamn time among the political class, and that's why it's not odd either. Clarence-Thomas is a politically connected individual with a great deal of wealth. That's going to be the kind of people he tends to associate with, hang out with, and encounter to potentially hang out with over his career. It's just the way that it is. It would be surprising to me if other SCOTUS justices currently there hadn't gotten similar, again, de facto gifts from people. This would apply to the liberal and conservative justices. It would be surprising to me if many or possibly all members of the Senate, governors, etc., end up with this treatment, even down to the local level. And so when they call for impeachment, like AOC is calling for Clarence-Thomas to be impeached over this grievous ethics violation, well, you haven't established any criminal wrongdoing or civil wrongdoing. Again, because the rule with regards to disclosing a trip on a Learjet or a vacation on a yacht, again, did not exist at the time that he was taking those, let's face it, effectively reimbursements. By the way, I don't think that this was an attempt to influence Clarence-Thomas, who has made his political MO clear since the first day he was in the Supreme Court. The idea that you have to bribe Clarence-Thomas to make far-right decisions at the SCOTUS level is reaching some. It's like, I'll extend this same effective logic to, like, let's say Elena Kagan has been, ferried around the world at great expense by George Soros. That's not going to influence her. She already has those views. So what's going to change? The Supreme Court is not supposed to be a partisan function, but it's a partisan function. No bribery is necessary. If anything, you would look at it as a post-facto reward for them being consistent about their views, or something like that. I would know the left hates Clarence-Thomas. It's very, very difficult. They have to resort to the he's a woman-hating rapist sort of bullshit, the phony baloney that almost stopped him from being put in the Supreme Court in the first case with Anita what's-her-name. They have to talk about that because, they can't say that he's a white supremacist. Although the CRT people are now claiming that there are a lot of black and Hispanic white supremacists around in the country. Apparently those Nazis, they became very, very inclusive once they branched out into the United States. I guess they knew their audience. Yes. They're just trying to keep a black man down. It's sort of like with the Tennessee Three. When we look at the Tennessee representatives that were expelled the other day. By the way, there's a tie and a great quote from none other than David Hogg, actually, that applies loosely to Clarence Thomas. We'll get into that a little bit just for jolly's sake. The men got expelled and the female didn't. And so when people say, well, they got expelled for being black and she's white, so she didn't. Well, they're also male. They have penises. And she happens not to. So why wouldn't you equally, if you're going to go full id poll, why wouldn't it be misandry? I guess Tennessee hates men, right? Wouldn't that make as much sense? It's a divergence. The people that were expelled, they didn't have the woman privilege, I suppose. It became a big problem for them in their career. Now they're meeting with, I think, Kamala Harris, by the way. She's grandstanding. Note that Joe's not coming along. Kamala's really good at self-aggrandizement. Hey, I'm the absentee vice president. Take a photo op with me. It'll really help you. It'll magically unexpel you from the Tennessee House. But with Clarence Thomas, he literally did nothing wrong. If you were to bring impeachment proceedings like in the House, it falls through because you don't have the votes. The Republicans run the House. Probably you'd have Democrats voting against it when you point out what ethics rule did he actually violate. None. None of this is, it's not income. Harlancrow didn't hand him a bunch of Benji Greens as though somebody who's in the fucking Supreme Court with that kind of name recognition, I think he's written several books, as though he needs the goddamn money. Dude probably has a 7-8 bedroom home. It'd be interesting actually to see. I wonder what the interior decor, by the way, is. There must be a stark difference. They should have like, you remember when they had like MTV Cribs and shit? And YouTubers have done this too. They should do this with SCOTUS. And I wonder, I have a sneaking suspicion that the stylistic differences would be off the fucking chain. The feeling that the liberal justices probably prefer modern art. I don't think that Clarence Thomas has any brutalismus paintings in his den, or his second den. Yeah, it really, you successfully bribed Clarence Thomas. You don't need to. No, but if you decide to give him a yacht trip, he'll thank you for that. You get to hang out with Clarence Thomas. Imagine the interesting conversations. He is a smart dude. I say this as someone who doesn't agree with every decision that he's made either, but you can't say that he's unintelligent. They like to cast him off that way, though. There's the insinuation of him being the slow justice at times. Boy, oh boy, again, with your left-wing racist tropes that you would never dare support being applied to anyone who is left-leaning while being BIPOC. I think he's a protected class. Shouldn't he get reparations from all of you white liberals instead of you trying to constantly rob him of his job? You did this with sex assault claims that fell through and were always salacious. You've done it now with this. You've done it over and over. And every time he makes a decision that you don't like, you say that he should recuse himself, he should be impeached, he should resign because he made a bad decision. He doesn't understand the Constitution as well as we do. He doesn't understand the Constitution or legal history as well as some Starbucks kid with pink hair. And Harlancrow totally bought him off, making him the conservative superpower that he is today. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense. See, Clarence Thomas wasn't born evil. He wasn't born a far-right, white appeasement Oreo. No, he was made that way by Harlancrow. That's the story they're basically going with. And then you had David Hogg reacting to the Tennessee ejection, saying you don't expel someone unless you're afraid of them. And we're a movement. You can't expel a movement. Well, you're trying to expel Clarence Thomas right now. What are you afraid of, Davey? You seem to have Clarence Thomas derangement syndrome. AOC fucking definitely has it. That's going to be David Hogg's next girlfriend, probably. Maybe he's got mommy issues. Probably does. You're trying to expel him. What are you so fucking afraid of? Is it the fact that the court is no longer far left like it was until the Trump era? Yeah, probably. You got Bruin, Roe v. Wade. That's about all. Peace out.